Hey guys, Assalamu alaikum. This is me again with another nice recipe. This is one of my favorites as well. This is Bhuna Gosht, which is cooked meat, or you can call it parched meat. This can also be called goat curry, or if you end up using lamb for the meat, you can call it lamb curry as well. It just depends on how you manage the gravy of it, which I'll show you later on in the recipe. You can leave a bit more gravy, or you can have it the way I've got it here. It's totally up to you and your liking of the amount of gravy. So let's get into it. We just need half an onion, 1 tomato for 1 kilo of the goat meat or lamb meat, whatever you prefer. That was cut into curry pieces, and it was with bone. Now this is a pressure cooker. I like to cook my meat in pressure cooker because I'm usually running out of time, but you can, if you don't have a pressure cooker, or if you don't prefer using a pressure cooker, you could do the same thing on just a normal pan, and leave the meat in water and let it simmer for about an hour in the pressure cooker. The meat cooks in about 20 minutes, but on a normal pan it would probably take about an hour, just above an hour. So the meat goes into the pressure cooker, or your normal pan if that's what you're using. Half an onion, 1 tomato, salt to taste. I've put about 1/4 teaspoon of chili flake, depends on how hot you like your curry. And I'll put just less than 1/4 of turmeric in there as well. I'll put about 2 tablespoons of ginger garlic paste in there. You could increase or decrease the amount to your liking. And I usually just heat my water in the kettle first, so I'm not waiting for the water to boil. That's just a little trick of mine that I use. I've used about 3 cups of water in the pressure cooker. I like to soak my meat in the water, because otherwise I just find it goes slightly hard and the color goes slightly darker than what it's supposed to be. But if you're doing this in a pan, obviously you just have to put 6 to 8 cups, if not more, and just cook it on medium heat. See when your meat cooks. Now I've just closed the pressure cooker and put the weight on. Now for some of my friends who haven't used a pressure cooker before, that little screw, that little pin on the left hand side rises when the pressure builds up in the pressure cooker, so that's when you know that your meat is cooking under pressure. So when this rises, that's when you put the timer and you leave it for 20 minutes, and after 20 minutes you turn the stove off and wait for that pin to lower, completely go down, and that's when you remove the weight. You just have to be very mindful that you don't open the lid without the steam completely exiting the pressure cooker, because otherwise the curry will spill on you. So that's my 90% of the meat cooked just in pressure cooker, very nice and easy. And now I've just got my pan. I'm cooking this in Desi ghee, just ghee. You can use like oil or whatever you like. I just wanted a bit of traditional flavor, so I ended up using half a cup of ghee and Desi ghee, and then I'm just taking all the meat out of the pressure cooker and it goes straight into the pan with the ghee. Just make sure obviously that you take all the meat out, otherwise it'll just be a waste. So I'm just making sure that all of my onion and tomato it comes out of the pressure cooker. The only thing that remains in the water is the stew, which we will use as well. So once all of that comes out in the pan, our job is literally just to stir it and cook it, parch it, whatever word you prefer using for it. But there's just a lot of cooking that needs to go to give it the flavor, because at the moment the meat is cooked but there's not a lot of flavor in the meat. The flavor comes from all of this stirring, all of this parching that we will be doing on high heat. So this is on high heat. You just continue to cook it for the next 10 to 15 minutes, and when you feel that it's burning or is sticking to the pan, that leftover stew that we have, we just put a little bit of that into the pan and ensure that we don't don't let it burn, or we don't let it stick to the pan too much. So every now and then I will be adding the stew back in there to ensure that it's properly cooked. And now as soon as I take the pan out as soon as I take the meat out, I'll just ensure that I put about 6 peppercorns, black peppercorns, 4 cloves, 2 bay leaves, and 1 Indian cinnamon stick. All of that goes in there, and we just basically get onto our task to stir it or to parch it. It has to be done on high heat, and this is, like, I can't emphasize enough, this is where all the flavors come from. You have to stir it, you have to cook it on high heat for the next 10 to 15 minutes to make sure that all of those nice flavors come into your meat. Now as it's cooking, I'll continue to put some of the stock or the stew back in there. When I'll find that the meat is starting to stick to the pan, or if it's getting too dry, and I'll try to I'll end up using all of that stew by the end of it, and this is how towards the end you'll manage the gravy as well. So towards the end I'll show you how, if towards the end you don't reduce the sauce, you can increase the amount of gravy, but I'll talk about that more towards the end of the recipe. Now about 5 minutes into it, I'm ready to put the other spices which need to go in there. I'll put 1 teaspoon of Zeera powder and 3/4 teaspoon of coriander powder. That's pretty much it. That goes in for now, and then I've just started just continuing with the same process of just stirring the meat and continuing to add the water, or to add the stew, the leftover stock from the meat that we've cooked. I'll continue to add that to ensure that all of my spices and my meat is properly parched. I'll also take this opportunity a bit later on to start removing the tomato skin as well. As I said in earlier recipes, tomato skin doesn't look or taste very nice in curry, so we tend to take it out if possible. While I'm taking the tomato skin out, I'll also mention that you might have noticed I've only used half an onion in a kilo of meat. That's because you don't want to overdo the amount of onion. Onion adds sweetness to the curry, so I've done this curry with 1 onion, and that just makes my curry too sweet. So half an onion I've found is the perfect amount for a kilo of meat. And also to tomato, I've only used just 1 tomato. Any more than that just makes the curry a little bit sour, so just be mindful of the amount of onion and the tomato that you use. This combination has worked very well for me. The ratio of 1 kilo, just 1 kilo of meat with half an onion, it was a big onion, and 1 small tomato tends to give me really good flavor. I found that if you just keep it low on the spices, like not too low, obviously we want to have the flavor, it just ends up giving really nice flavors. Otherwise it gets too not chili spicy, but it just gets too spicy. Now I've just added 1 green chili. I cut it into pieces in there, and this chili was slightly hot. That's why I put only like 1/4 teaspoon earlier of red chili flakes. Now I'm just going to do the same thing, like every single thing that goes in there. After that, you just continuously stir it, cook it on high heat for at least 2 to 3 minutes, and continue adding that leftover stock if you think that it's burning. Now this is the stage where mostly all the spices have gone in. There's only 2 more to go. So towards the end, you just put I just add half a teaspoon of garam masala. If you like it full of spices, you can put more of garam masala, but this ratio works perfectly for me. So half a teaspoon of garam masala and some black pepper goes in there towards the end. And also this is the time where you control the amount of gravy. So now the meat has nicely cooked, though this whole process took about 10 minutes. So in 20 minutes in the pressure cooker, the meat was 85% cooked, and these 10 minutes of cooking on high heat has made the meat very soft. So this is where you can add the stock in there and adjust the amount of gravy. So whatever amount of gravy you want in there, you'll just leave that much stock in there and just let it simmer for a little bit and not cook on high heat. That will reduce the stock. So at this stage you can do that because your meat is fully cooked. Now I'm just adding finally some coriander in there. Coriander is very good for you and looks really good in the dish as well. Now I like to take my bay leaves and the cinnamon and I forgot to mention earlier, I put 2 black cardamoms in there too in the beginning, but I'll write that on the recipe. So now this is the amount of gravy that I was chasing for. So now my meat is all done. I'm just taking it out to serve it. This is what it looks like. I was really happy with how it turned out. I usually just make it pretty much every second week because it's one of our favorites. So this recipe I will also be doing in Urdu, so do let me know if you have any suggestions or if anything that you want me to try, or if you have any comments or any requests. So once again, I'll just say that I really appreciate the time that you spent with me. Inshallah, I'll see you again. Until then, look after yourself. Assalamu alaikum.